Dirty Birds, what's up? And welcome back to the Atlanta Falcons Podcast Network. I'm your host, Will McFadden. It is my absolute honor to welcome Norfolk State head coach and Atlanta Falcons legend, Michael Vick, to the show. Mike, thank you for joining us. How you doing, man?
Will, I'm good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing great.
It's an honor to be sitting here with you, man.
Yeah.
Long time.
Excited to kind of dig into what you got going on in kind of your next chapter. And you just wrapped up your first spring as a head coach at Norfolk State. What was that like?
Man, it was exciting. At the same time, just being a first-year head coach, you instantly find out, what works and what don't work. And, it was fun just learning every day, being around the guys and being around the coaches and just learning what it takes to be a football coach, a head coach at that. Watched a lot of coaches over the years, but never really knew what happens behind the scenes, and so had to pick a couple coaches' brains and put my own little spin on it, and that was the cool part.
It does seem like you've immersed yourself with a staff of guys who have some NFL experience. Leroy Reynolds, who Falcons fans probably know pretty well. But yeah, so what has that immersive kind of getting your hands in there, just really, like you said, identifying some of the strengths and weaknesses?
Yeah, myself, Leroy, Terrence Garvin, Elton Brown, just a couple. I didn't want to have a staff full of former NFL players, which I could have. I just wanted to have enough experience to where the young men could relate and we could share stories and we can build character and, we can help them find ways to chase that level of commitment. Because we had to do it, and I did take credit away from the other coaches who didn't make it or didn't play on that level. It was I just felt like it was a bonus for them, and so I got an amazing staff of coaches, top to bottom, and we all share the same goals. We know what's at stake, and we just carry the mantra that everything matters.
So, to go back to kind of the beginning of the process, once you make it known that you're interested in potentially pursuing coaching, it seemed like Norfolk State reached out pretty quickly. Can you take us through what that process was like with them?
Yeah, Norfolk State, they reached out like late November of last year. I remember it was right around Thanksgiving because I was thinking about it and contemplating it just throughout the holidays and the opportunity that was at hand, but still enjoying Fox and loving, being at Fox Sports and the people that I work with there. So it was a tough decision. Truthfully, at the end of the day, I was wanting to go into coaching, a couple years from now. But the opportunity just came a little earlier than what I expected. And so I was at a crossroads, like, do I wait another 2 years or do I just step into it now and get the experience? And I felt like God was putting me in a position where I was forced to make a decision, and hopefully I made the right one. And so I know I did. I know I made the right decision, but it was hard to leave Fox, but I'm glad that I made the decision to just get out there and do it and not be afraid. And the only thing I'm afraid of is failing, and that's a good thing, but I can handle it.
And how important or how big of a role did returning to the Hampton Roads community kind of play in your decision ultimately to say maybe this is the right time to go back to a community that means so much to you? Yeah,
I think it was part of the reason that I went back. Being in my hometown, 30 minutes away where I grew up, from Norfolk, in Newport News. And, I had a chance to go to Sacramento State where they had, tons of money, NIL, tons of money to pay me. My wife still think I'm crazy for going to Norfolk. And, sometimes it's not all about the monetary. It's not about the money. It's about, the experience, what you can get out of it. I don't do things for all the time for monetary reasons. And so if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I felt like it was a great place to gain some experience, get a lay of the land and get a feel for what I really wanted to do for the next 10 years of my life. And, I'm going to make it a success. It's going to be successful, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to look far around the league to see that the legacy you left on the field is carried on today, even greater than it was when you kind of carried on the Doug Williams and so forth. But what kind of legacy are you hoping to leave in the community, now as Michael Vick, the coach?
Yeah, I'm looking to leave a legacy to a standpoint of it don't matter what you do, it don't matter what you look like, it don't matter where you come from. You can always give back into your community. When I was playing with the Falcons and when I had millions and millions of dollars and I was making that type of money at the time, I gave back. When, I went away and I came back, and before I got signed to the Philadelphia Eagles in a major contract, I was giving back and doing football camps. And when I retired, I still came back home. When I wasn't playing in the NFL and making millions of dollars, I still gave back to the community. Kids still came home and coached football camps here in Atlanta, Tennessee, Texas. I moved around. I was mobile with it, me and some of my coaches, and that's on the staff with us now. And we always cared, man. We always cared about what the next generation would look like, and especially after seeing the quarterbacks, like Michael Penix and Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson and RG3. After seeing these guys emerge and Cam Newton, I was like, man, this is because the work was put in years prior, and so I was just proud of that.
Has that always been kind of an innate quality, or was that something you picked up in childhood, kind of the importance of paying it forward for future generations? Yeah,
well, I seen Bruce Smith as a kid when he's from Virginia Beach, and I seen him when I was about 13 years old at a football game, and I spoke to him, and he spoke back, and then he spoke to us after practice, and I just remember him smiling at me and talking to us, and I probably didn't understand what he was saying at the time, but I'm like, he took the time out to talk to us. Bruce Smith is standing right there talking to us, and so I always felt like if I had a chance to be in that position one day, then I would do the same thing. And so years later, I was able to give back in the community and teach kids football and teach them principles and teach them how to lead and teach them how to care.
You have played for some of the best teachers in the NFL, Andy Reid, Mike Tomlin, Dan Reeves here in Atlanta. I'm curious, do you think that they all shared kind of a common trait that made them a great coach? Or as you're going about looking as your career as a coach, are you trying to pick bits and pieces from each one that you've worked with?
Yeah, definitely take bits and pieces from each and every coach that I've had, from Dan to Jim to Andy to Mike T. Great football coaches, but I think extraordinary people, great men. And maybe it's because of the way they was raised and the principles that they was taught, and then they turn around and instill it right in us. And so when we making a mistake or going down the wrong path or not doing things right or need some advice, we can go to them and get the proper advice, or they'll see it coming. Hey, why don't you do this? And, hey, this should be done this way. And so those are the moments that, when you win them, you might be hearing something that you don't want to hear, but you're hearing what you're supposed to hear, and that makes a difference. And so, even just talking to Raheem today and just hearing him, just know that these dudes are used to leading men. They're very used to it.
What was that like, kind of seeing Raheem work out there on the practice field, and what's your impression of him so far?
Well, me being in that same position, I'm just watching, that's me. I go from one side of the ball to the other. I try to encourage, even though I'm on my offensive mind, I try to encourage the defense to, put pressure on the offense every day and don't let up, and, try to shut them out if you can, and that's creating toughness. That's creating a hardcore mentality, and it's good for my players to see that I'm not biased just because I played in the NFL and I played quarterback, and I cater more to, I probably spend more time with my quarterbacks than I do any other position, but I think that's the most important position on the field.
For sure. And
not unit, position.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I've heard that, there are some aspects, qualities that you can't coach, right? And I think it's fair to say that a lot of what you did on a football field, it's hard for me to learn how to do those things, right?
Yeah.
So how do you kind of strike that balance between coaching something that maybe came to you a little bit more naturally than others, while still being able to provide insights and kind of really get in there technically?
Yeah, you just gotta read between the lines in a lot of situations. you got to be straightforward with your quarterbacks and with your offense in general. And I think more so now, just with my team, I can't cut any corners. I can't take any shorts. I gotta, be fully transparent with them in order to get the best version of them. And so, I'm learning that, being honest is the best thing. We try to teach trust in the process and that everything matters. And so I got to believe in that as well. And so when I see something that needs to be taught or need to be talked about or need to be spoken upon, I gotta do that. And so that I appreciate that responsibility because I feel like it's just God putting me in this position to just continue to lead.
As kind of a leader, when you're entering your first season, I mean, you don't want to focus necessarily on the results, right? Because results can be the result of the process. And so how much are you trying to work on the men, the players, the people on your team versus kind of the score and the record at the end of the year? Yeah,
I think most important, it's important for us to get to know each other.
Yeah.
What makes me tick, what makes them tick. It's a lot of them, a lot of personal relationships, but it'll happen in time. And some of them you'll be a little closer to than others because some will get more reps and need more communication than others. But they all come and knock on my door. They all walk into my office and say hi and speak and sit in the chair and talk and communicate. And I think that's special. And so, I hope that we continue to have those same vibes and keep that same energy and, keep putting forth our best effort. And so as long as we try and it's reciprocated, I think we will be successful in there.
I've got one more kind of coaching one before we talk a little Falcons football, but it seems like you're following a trend of a lot of former athletes becoming head coaches. Obviously, Deion is kind of the number one example there. But have you reached out to any of your former colleagues to kind of like see, hey, what's this about? You got any advice as I go into my first year here?
Yeah, I mean, I reached out to pretty much all the coaches that I played for and talked to them, and they all reached out to me. I think they all recognize and understand who I was as a person, as a player, and they can see that's going to come out. So yeah, it's just I think just in most recent, it was just like Deion was like the one who went through it, like especially coaching college football. It's like, man, how do I need to look at things, or how do I need to? But even today, I was picking Raheem's brain on a couple different things. He was telling me some things that he do, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing it that way too, so I'm spot on with it. He like, yeah, you spot on, keep it that way.
That's awesome.
And so just keeping it simple, man, and not wearing it out, team meetings of that sort, and not having them every day and trying to preach them. Let things happen naturally. And knowing when to step in and knowing when to communicate and how to communicate is important. And so I'm soaking all these things in, but at the same time, got great mentors around me. And Raheem he reached out as soon as I got the job in Norfolk State. You need anything, reach out. It's great.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's amazing to hear. And there are so many facets and different styles of leadership, and it'll keep you busy 24/7 trying to learn all of it. But Atlanta's offense is kind of under a new leadership of sorts with Michael Penix stepping in as a starting quarterback. What are your thoughts on him as he heads into a second year?
Yeah, I'm excited for Mike. I think this is going to be an amazing season for him. Just watching practice, it looked like everything is slowed down. He threw a couple touchdown passes today. Good reads, moved well in the pocket, good pocket presence, and good feel for the game. And so with some complementary players around him like Bijan and Drake and Cal, these guys are going to really do some special things this year, and with a revamped defense, which I think is most important to talk about. Raheem did what he's supposed to do. That's what Raheem do. Like he builds defenses. So, it's funny. I was headed over here and I seen that Jalen Ramsey was still on the market. I'm like, damn, what would Jalen Ramsey and A.J. Terrell look like? But then I started thinking about the economic part of it, and just won't work. But they got some young guys that they drafted and they brought in. They're gonna be dynamite as well.
No, day 2 and beginning of day 3 was all secondary for Atlanta.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
When you look at kind of the juice that they're adding in the pass rush with James Pierce, Jalen Walker, I mean, after playing Julius Peppers and some of those guys, the importance of having a pass rush, right?
Oh, man, it's invaluable to have a pass rush and to have it for 4 quarters. it's a 4-quarter game. Like I told him today, I used to feel like the game was won in the first quarter, second quarter. It's really won in 4 quarters. You got to play the whole full game. And it ain't over till that clock strike 000, man, when it's all said and done. And so, you need them pass rushes to keep going and keep getting to it and keep battling. And that's what football is all about. It's a constant battle.
So that's been kind of a talking point this offseason here with the defense is kind of the waves of pass rushers and having some rotations in there. I'm curious, like the groups that gave you the most trouble in your playing days, was it the defensive lines that could rotate fresh legs and have those good pass rushers?
It was the Philadelphia Eagles of the world with Corey Simon and Javon Curse, and I think they had a guy McDougal. They just had good pass rushers all across, and it was just there's a couple of them.
Yeah.
And then the Bucks when they had Sapp and Booger, and they had Simeon on the edge, and so those are the teams that give you fits. When they got a pass rush that's consistent, and in the fourth quarter when it's all said and done, that's when you got to win the game. You got to win in the fourth quarter.
And then Jesse Bates on the back end, just kind of seeing the whole field as the captain of that defense.
Yeah, Jesse's so smart, like just understanding what's going on, like the quarterback of the defense, and just a true leader. So you got a good pass rush, and then you got AJ who's still gonna hold it down. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? AJ still. I was talking to him today. Like, I ain't done. I'm not done.
It sounds like you're a big fan of AJ.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of AJ, man. AJ's strong, and he. You know what I'm saying? He played the game the right way, and he's done it the right way. I can't believe he's in like his 7th season or something.
It's
like
crazy,
that, man.
time
7th
flies.
or 8th season. Like, man, it just still they still seem so young, but just coming into their own, and at the same time, like maturing into their role. And so, you got a guy like AJ who's really who's a Pro Bowler, who gonna be leading the next generation. The corners coming in, and that's big. It don't get no better than that.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the player who took up the mantle of number 7 here, Bijan Robinson. And both he and Tyler Algier, honestly, it reminds me a little bit of Warwick and TJ back in the day. I mean,
man.
What are your thoughts on Atlanta's backfield?
Oh man, I mean, just Tyler and Bijan, man. Like Tyler gonna do the dirty work. Bijan gonna just be dynamic, and this season right here gonna be the breakout season. And then when you look at it, man, it almost looked like what we had. You got the big receivers. Yeah. I had Fan. I had Algie. Michael got Pitts. He got Cal. He got Drake. Big receivers, and then he got I had Warwick, a dynamic running back behind me, and then another dynamic running back in T.J. Duckett. And so with Chris and Bijan, it's like. And I was just talking to Mike, like, what you think the offense is? What type of offense is it? He's like, I think we run-oriented, but we're going to throw it a lot. I'm like, you got to run when you got those type of runners. And so it just eases up the pressure and makes the game a lot easier from a quarterback standpoint.
It is exciting to think, a lot of rookie quarterbacks, you come in and then you start building out around them.
Yeah.
He's coming into a situation where, you kind of get this thing going in the right direction early.
Yeah.
It does feel like they could catch fire. Last one for you, all these years removed from your time here in Atlanta, when you think back to your playing days with the Falcons, is there one moment, one memory that kind of bubbles up to the surface a little more often than others?
Yeah, man. I remember when I broke my ankle in 2003, and I missed about 12 games. And we were struggling. We was like 1-8, 1-9, and I was just kind of contemplating, should I come back this season? There's no need to come back. The season's already over. I probably should just sit this season out. And I came back in week 12 or 13 because I wanted to be out there for my teammates. I watched them, their struggle. They was losing. It was dismal. And even though I never had the type of injury that I had, I was afraid to get back out there. But I was like, if I'm gonna make a sacrifice, I'm gonna do it for my teammates. I'm gonna do it for the guys. And I went back out there. I think we went 2-1. We might have went 3-1, 2-1. I know I came back. We beat Carolina. We went to Indy and got smoked by Peyton. And then we beat the Bucks, and then we beat the Jaguars at home. And I just remember, and just asking you asking me about the memory, man. Just being so satisfied with a 4-game season for myself. And it wasn't because we came back and won the games. It was because I came back and battled with my teammates and showed them how much I cared, and it meant a lot to me.
Oh, that's such an awesome answer. Thank you for sharing that. I remember exactly where I was as probably a 10-year-old kid at that point.
Yeah, for sure.
Watching that game.
Making me feel old.
Sorry about it. I tend to do that to people. Good. Apologize. But, yeah, that's incredible. And to look at what then the 2004 season was.
Right.
You springboarded that so well.
Yeah.
So, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on this podcast.
It's awesome, Will.
Lifelong dream of mine come true. And thank you guys so much for listening, watching. We will catch you guys soon.